The story begins with a quiet morning. The protagonist steps out of his home, gently closing the door behind him. He pauses for a moment, then mutters to himself, "All right, let's go then." As he walks forward, the scene shifts. He begins to narrate his own story. He says, "My name is Koga Daisuke. I'm 40 years old, just an average salaryman who loves survival games." The world around him feels unfamiliar. He approaches a wooden sign posted along the path. Strange symbols are carved into it, clearly a warning of some kind. Daisuke squints at it, confused, then sighs and says, "No use, I can't read a speck." He looks around at the dense forest, filled with plants and creatures he's never seen before. He exhales slowly and says, "You think I wandered into another world through my closet? This place is full of animals and plants I've never seen. It surprises me every time." He pauses, rubbing his temple. He says, "My brain is completely bugged trying to process all this." Then he lifts the object in his hand. He studies it carefully and says, "And the most surprising thing of all is this air gun I have here." Suddenly, a heavy thumping sound echoes through the forest. Daisuke freezes. He slowly turns around. From the shadows, several goblins burst forward, small, twisted creatures wielding crude knives and sticks. Daisuke's eyes widen. He instinctively steps back as they rush him. He mutters under his breath, "What in the world are these little creatures?" The goblins swarm him, snapping and clawing at his bag. One lunges forward. Daisuke barely dodges, stumbling backward as he shouts, "That was close." He waves his arms defensively and yells, "Hey, stop it." Then, a sharp voice cuts through the chaos. A woman rushes in, sword drawn. She positions herself in front of him and shouts, "Get behind me, hurry." Daisuke doesn't hesitate. He scrambles behind her and says, "Why yes." He watches in shock. The woman stands firm, facing the goblins without fear. She declares, "Stop targeting this man. I will be your opponent." The goblins charge. She raises her sword and calls out, "O sword, lend me thy strength." In a flash, she slashes through two goblins in a single motion. The rest lunge at her, but she moves with precision, dodging, weaving, striking. Another goblin falls. The remaining creatures hesitate, then scatter, fleeing into the forest. Silence returns. Daisuke stares in awe and says, "Whoa, that's cool." The woman turns to him, lowering her sword. She asks, "Are you all right?" Daisuke nods quickly and says, "Thank you, you really saved me back there." She gives a small nod and replies, "I'm Rena, a traveling knight." Daisuke straightens himself and says, "Koga Daisuke, you can call me Daisuke." Rena tilts her head slightly, then lets out a small laugh. She says, "Daisuke, what a strange name." Then she softens her expression and adds, "I'm relieved you're unharmed. May the blessings of Mana be upon you." Time passes. The two sit beside a small campfire, sharing a simple meal of bread. Rena explains calmly, "When goblins form packs, they become violent. They attack people, even entire settlements." Daisuke nods thoughtfully and says, "I see." Rena continues, "I'm stationed at a nearby village. My duty is to exterminate goblins in this region." Daisuke leans back slightly, thinking in his usual analytical way. He says, "Being able to communicate efficiently, that's a crucial skill in business. I'd hire you in a heartbeat if this were my company." Rena blinks, confused. Her gaze shifts to the object in his hand. She points at it and asks, "And that is a very strangely shaped talisman. What is it?" Daisuke raises it slightly and replies, "Oh, this. It's a personal self-defense weapon." Rena tilts her head and says, "Really? Do you use it by swinging it? It doesn't look very effective." Daisuke chuckles awkwardly. Rena then stands, brushing off her armor. She says, "Walking alone in this forest is dangerous. Come, I'll escort you to the village." Daisuke waves his hand and replies, "No need, I'm fine." Lena's expression turns firm. She says, "Protecting the weak is a knight's duty. There's no shame in accepting help." She looks toward the horizon. She adds, "We should depart before dusk." Daisuke hesitates, then nods nervously. He says, "All right, I'll be in your care." The two walk through the forest together. After some time, Rena points ahead. She says, "We can see the village now, Daisuke. Look." Daisuke squints into the distance. But before they can continue, Rena suddenly stops. Her expression sharpens. She says quietly, "What is this?" The forest feels wrong. The bushes rustle, not with movement, but with absence. Rena frowns and says, "It feels like all the small animals are fleeing, as if they're avoiding something." Daisuke nods slowly. Lena grips her sword tighter. She says there might be goblins nearby. Then, a massive impact shakes the ground. A giant figure crashes down in front of them. Daisuke stumbles back in shock and shouts, "It's huge. That's definitely not a goblin." The creature looms over them, stone-like, monstrous. Lena's eyes widen. She says, "A gargoyle, a magic beast created by sorcery." She narrows her gaze and adds, "But why is something this powerful here?" The creature lets out a low, grinding roar. Lena steps forward resolute. She declares, "I cannot allow it to rampage near the village." Daisuke panics and says, "Are you serious? We should run. The village is right there." Lena doesn't look back. She says, "I will hold it off." Daisuke, go to the village. Before he can respond, she charges. She raises her sword and shouts, "O sword, lend me thy strength." She spins into a powerful strike, turning slash. The blade collides with the gargoyle's arm, but the impact barely leaves a mark. Lena's eyes widen. She mutters, "It's too tough, my sword can't pierce it." The gargoyle raises its massive hand, then slams it down. Lena barely dodges, rolling to the side. She recovers quickly and strikes again. But the result is the same. She grits her teeth. She thinks to herself, a gargoyle exists only to destroy humans if it reaches the village. Before she can finish, the gargoyle swings, a devastating blow lands. Lena is struck head-on and sent flying through the air.